A very good afternoon to you. Thanks for choosing Newzroom Afrika. Let's check in with your sport, and we start with this. The 2023 rugby season was a successful one for South African rugby. The Springboks were crowned world champions for the second time in a row, while the Stormers reached their second United Rugby Championship home final in a row. Unfortunately for them, they couldn't make it 2 victories in a row. But they did go on to produce the bulk of the Springboks, who went on to lift the Webb Ellis trophy. Some of those players are set to be rewarded for their incredible contributions in the previous years. Newzroom Afrika's Yolulwe Qoshe joins us now from Multichoice City, where the SA Rugby Awards are set to be hosted this evening. Yolulwe, it was certainly an exciting season of rugby, a historic one in 2023. But if you have to pick just one for the South African Rugby Player of the Year, the big award of the evening, who would it be?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Studio Valen, as well as to the viewers at home. I feel like that is a very unfair question, because a lot of the players did lift up their hands for the Springboks in a very historic season for them, where they became back-to-back World Cup champions in France. So one of those players that did lift up his hand, I feel more than others, was Peter Steph du Toit, Valen, and I feel because in 2022 he had an injury-ravaged season where he didn't play that much for the Springboks. They felt the absence of his work rate on the field, covering every blade of grass. His tackling rate is impeccable as well. He showed that for the Springboks and at the World Cup, not even at the World Cup, but in the whole 2023 season. So I feel as if a player like him, a player that leaves it all on the field, blood, sweat and tears, sometimes all of the above in one particular game, deserves this particular award. And he sort of embodies what the Springboks have become under Jock Nienaber and Rassie Erasmus in the couple of years gone since 2018, since they became that partnership that took the Springbok brand forward. But he will be having tough competition from a man called Eben Etzebeth as well. Didn't have the most brilliant group stage in the World Cup, but when it mattered the most, he put his hand out for the Springboks in the, well, let's call it the business end of the World Cup, and has since been also playing terrific rugby for the Sharks before his injury. So a tight competition between those two forwards, Valen, between Peter Steph du Toit as well as Eben Etzebeth. Peter Steph du Toit has won this award twice before, in 2016, 2019. He'll be hoping to make it 3 times in 2023 for sure.
What about Siya Kolisi, the man that led us to a second Webb Ellis trophy? He's also in that category for the top player of the year.
Well, of course, Valen, you can't leave out Siya Kolisi from the conversation, but I have to be fair, because he missed a huge chunk of that particular international season. He came off with an injury for the Sharks during the latter stages of the 2023 United Rugby Championship season. It was touch and go whether or not he would make that World Cup squad, but he had miraculous recovery abilities, and he was able to play for the Springboks, making his first appearance of 2023 in that warm-up game against Wales. He played like a man possessed in that particular game. A lot of people struggled to fathom that he had been out of action for so long, but just on the basis of not playing for the bulk of the international season, I feel like the other 2 candidates, Valen, are just a touch above him this time around.
Let's speak a little bit about the South African Young Player of the Year. That's a hotly contested category. Canan Moodie and Jaden Hendricks are among those that are going head-to-head for that award.
Certainly, Valen, it's a very, very tight one. You look at just the names of those players, but when you break down the type of seasons they had, there's also, besides those 2, there's also Evan Ross of the Stormers, who has had a few caps for the Springboks as well. He's in that particular category. But what sets Canan Moodie apart is that both Evan Ross as well as Jaden Hendricks were injured for quite a bit of the last season, and Jaden Hendricks also missed a lot of the international season, unfortunately, due to the passing away of his father. He was not there because of compassionate leave. Canan Moodie took his chances in 2023, taking off from the 2022 that he had when he first got into that Springbok setup. 2023, he was given more responsibility in that Springbok setup. We saw him being moved into the midfield, playing at second center, Valen. Why? That says a lot about his character. Why? That says a lot about the trust the coach has in him. the position number 13 on the field, Valen, is the anchor for the defense of a team. So when you give that to a 20-year-old back in that period in last season, it means that the player has progressed enough to show you that he is ready for big responsibility, and he did so very well. He played one of the best games I've seen from a number 13 in his Springbok jersey in that warm-up at Twickenham against New Zealand, where the Springboks won 35-7. So that is one of the things that gives them the edge when it comes to that category of Young Player of the Year, Valen.
Yolulwe, just as we are about to wrap up, do you want to just give us a sense of where you are and what's actually going to be happening? I see there's quite a lot of action behind you. There's a green carpet. We hear a little bit of hooting. Can you just give us a sense of of where you are at and what we can expect this evening?
Well, it is the SA Rugby Awards for the 2023 rugby season, Valen. It is at Multichoice. So far, they have been making a few adjustments to just this little sign behind me, Valen. Now it seems like it's getting a bit better from the inside. Not too many people are in yet, but we are expecting to see quite a number of big dignitaries. Just before I came on air, I tried to stop Mark Alexandra of South African Rugby, the president, but he had to go in quickly. So that's just one of the guys on the big dignitaries from South African Rugby that we can expect to see here. While I was taking my name off, I saw quite a few rugby players, the likes of Qoshe are here as well, Valen. I saw quite a few names, Lucanio Arm's name, just at the top of my head of the names that I saw. So some big name players as well as some big dignitaries, big officials of South African Rugby expected to be here. But most importantly, the main purpose of this event is to crown those who have made a significant contribution to South African rugby, whether it's in the franchise levels, whether it's in the international levels of rugby, or even the junior levels of international rugby. Right here at this awards ceremony here tonight, they will get their just rewards and also motivation for them to keep going in a similar vein, or even better for him here in the 2024 season.
Just before you say goodbye, what about the players that are up in the women's category, Yolulwe?
Valen, I think there for me, Aseza is one of the players that I was very excited to see being one of the nominees. That's because in the Women's Rugby World Cup, she stood up heads and shoulders above any other player in the green and gold for me. I remember speaking to my former colleague at the time, and we both said that, listen, if anything good comes from the Springbok women in this particular World Cup, is that Aseza will get an opportunity to showcase her talent and also get a deal that takes her away from South Africa and pits her against some of the best rugby players in the women's game. She did, of course, do that as she signed for the Harlequins in England. I think, Valen, she is a strong candidate for that particular award, but you can't look also past the likes of Libby Janssen van Rensburg, who led the Bulls Daisies to an unbeaten season where they won the Women's National Rugby Championship on South African soil. So between those two, there will be quite a bit of competition. Nadine Roos, always part of the conversation, also stalwart for the 15s and 7s women's game, just like Janssen van Rensburg, that is Libby Valen. So it's very interesting to see between those three who comes out as victorious in the women's category.
Yolulwe Qoshe out at the South African Rugby Awards at Multichoice City. Thanks for chatting to us. We'll get you some more sports in the next hour here on Newzroom Afrika. Do stay with us. Newsfeed PM continues.